Dear students, this would be our lecture number 3 on the series of lecture that we are going to see as to how to solve the ethics case studies, which is very much an integral part of the GS paper 4. So, in the previous lectures, we have seen the introduction as to how to solve the case study, and also we have seen case study number 1 in our last lecture. So, today we are going to take the case study number 2. So, basically we are focusing upon the previous year questions that has asked in the year 2022 in the ethics paper. So, as we will proceed, we will also try to see the questions from the other years as well, and sometimes the important ethical issues or the case studies that is concerning us from the current affairs may also be picked up, and we will try to solve all those things. I am Babu, faculty StudyIQ English, and I also secured All India rank 337 in Civil Service Examination 2016, and I was supposed to get into Indian Administrative Service. For some reason it could not materialize, and then even before that also I was mentoring and teaching students, and then I have taken up a full-time profession of teaching the students after I couldn't join the service. Alright, with that we'll go to the case study number 2, which is a case which is related to an issue of illegal migration and what are the ethical dilemmas and the issues that is faced by an officer who is posted in the government department and who has to take care of all those things. So, this was a case study that was again asked in the year 2022. So, let us try to understand this particular case in the first place, and then we will also see as to what are the various directives in this particular case study, because answering to the directives is the most important part, but otherwise the remaining things is almost the same, but you will have to answer according to the directives that is asked in the question. So, we will directly move to the case without taking much of the time, and then we will try to understand the case. Okay, what are the things that you have to remember before you solve a case study? I have told this in the previous classes also, in our previous lectures, but I would try to reiterate and repeat them so that it gets into the minds of the students. So, there are few things that you have to remember. So, what are the important things? First, you will have to read and reread the case study so that you will be in a position to comprehend the entire case study. And second, you should not have any prejudgment. You should not have any preconceived notion. You should not carry forward something when you read this particular case study. You will have to just read the case study, and based on the facts and the events in the case study, you will have to answer that particular case study. Alright, and what is the objective of a case study? As I already said, the objective is to see how well a person who is preparing for civil service, how well or how good he will be an administrator when he gets into the service, because as an administrator you will be facing these issues on a daily basis. You will have to face a number of ethical dilemmas. You will have to uphold your civil service values. So, you will have to show highest standards of behavior when you are a civil servant. So, the case study is presented in front of you during the examination is to check that how well you are able to deal with all those things. That is the idea behind the case studies. Alright, come to our case study. So, Ramesh is a state civil service officer who got the opportunity of getting posted to the capital of a border state after rendering 20 years of service. That means Ramesh is a senior officer, and till this point of time he has not been in the city, but he has posted elsewhere. But now after 20 years of service, he got an opportunity to be in the state capital. But however, please understand, this state is a border state. It is bordering with some country. But however, neither the country nor the state is mentioned here. So, do not assume anything when you write the answer. Ramesh's mother has recently been detected cancer and has been admitted in the leading cancer hospital in the city. So, that means Ramesh's mother is detected with cancer. That means he is having some personal issues, and one of such issues is that his mother has been recently detected with cancer and she is admitted in the hospital. And apart from that, his 2 adolescent children have also got admissions in one of the best schools in the same town. So, in the same place, his 2 adolescent children have also got the admission. That means for Ramesh to stay in that particular place is very important, because his mother's health is important, and so is his children's education. After settling down in his appointment as a director in the home department of the state, so he is a state service officer, so he has settled down in his new posting. Ramesh got confidential report through intelligence sources that illegal migrants are infiltrating in the state from the neighboring country, he decided to personally carry out surprise check of the border post along with his home department team. To his surprise, when he carried out this, to his surprise, he caught red-handed 2 families of 12 members infiltrated with a connivance of the security personnel at the border post. That means after he got posted and intelligence is coming to him and news is coming to him that there is some infiltration that is happening from the border from the neighboring country, and that too illegally. And based on this report, he is going for a surprise checkup with his team, and he also finds that 12 members, not very few members, 12 members are infiltrating, that too with a connivance of, that too with the help of the personnel who are posted in that particular place itself. So that is a serious ethical issue and ethical concern. You can understand that connivance with the security personnel, and then they are trying to enter into it. That's a very ethical concern that we will subsequently understand. On further inquiry and investigation, it was found that after the migrants from the neighboring country infiltrate, their documentation like Aadhaar card, ration card and voter card are also forged, and they are made to settle down in a particular area of the state. So this is even more concerning, that it is not only there is a connivance to enter into the country, but after they enter into the country, there is an organized crime that is happening, that people get lot of IDs, fake IDs, and they are made to stay in a particular place in our country. Ramesh prepared the details and comprehensive report and submitted to the additional secretary of the state. So probably he reported this to his boss, who is the additional secretary of the state in this case. However, he was summoned by the additional secretary after a week and was instructed to withdraw this report. So Ramesh submitted this particular report, but after a week he was summoned by his boss, and he is saying that withdraw this particular report. The additional home secretary informed Ramesh that the report submitted by him has not been appreciated by the higher authorities. He further cautioned him that if he fails to withdraw the confidential report, he will not be posted, he will not only be posted out from the prestigious appointment from the state capital, but his further promotion, which is due in near future, will also get in jeopardy. That means Ramesh is doing his line of duty. In the line of duty, he is facing few challenges. As an officer who has to control illegal migration into India, he is rightfully doing that particular job. He is trying to uphold his civil service values. But however, what is the challenge that he has to face in the line of performance of his duty? That his senior officer is saying that the higher officials is not happy with this particular report, and he has to withdraw this particular report. And if he does that, everything will be all right. But if he is not doing it, then what are the consequences? Probably he will be posted out of the city, which he'll have to relate it to the need for him to live in the city, because his mother is admitted in the hospital, his children is undergoing education in a good school. So probably all these things might get affected. And not only that, his promotion is due. His promotion may also get affected. So there is a lot of personal interest of Ramesh is at stake if he is going to perform his duty. So that is serious ethical concern and an ethical dilemma that he has to go through in whatever course of action that he has to decide in this particular case. But anyways, now let us try to understand as to what are the various directives. So the students have to understand these directives before they can answer the questions. Okay, so let us try to understand as to what are the directives. So what are the options available to Ramesh as the director of home department of the bordering state? So what are the various possible options? Now please understand, this directive is very, very important. Whenever the question is asking that what are the various options available, this is very, very important. So these options, there is no need that there has to be a sequence in these options. It can be discrete options. There is no need for any continuity. But however, let us assume if they ask what is a course of action, a course of action should always be in a sequential manner. Okay. So come to the next thing. So probably here you'll have to identify 3-4 options that Ramesh can do. Putting yourself in Ramesh's position, you can decide as to what are the options you can decide. What option should Ramesh adopt and why? So here they are asking that what is the best option and what is the reason for that. 3. Critically evaluate each of the options. When you say critically evaluate, analyze each and every options in depth and say as to what are the positives and negatives in each and every options. Come to the 4th directive. What are the ethical dilemmas faced by Ramesh in this particular case? So ethical dilemmas is whatever action that he has to take, there are 2 options in front of him, a right one and a wrong one, but probably the right one may not be personally good to him. The right one may not be a self-serving one. Even if he does the right thing, there can be some personal loss for him. but he can do the wrong thing, but there can be a personal gain for him. So ethical dilemma is that there are two routes available in front of him, basically a wrong one and a right one. So which one he is supposed to choose? That is the ethical dilemma. So try to identify the ethical dilemmas in this particular case study. And then the last thing is, what policy measures would you suggest to combat the menace of infiltration of illegal migrants from the neighboring country? Now please understand, in most of the questions that now you can understand, UPSC is not only putting you in some form of ethical dilemmas and ethical issues, and not only checking as to how you will deal with these ethical dilemmas and issues, UPSC is also trying to test your general knowledge, the general awareness to various issues that is happening in the country. Now, in the last class, we have discussed about organized crime. Today, we are discussing about an issue of illegal migration. So, as a student preparing for civil service, as someone who wanted to become an administrator, you should also be aware of the various legal mechanisms and the other issues that is concerning all these cases. All right. So, you can use all those things when you write your answer. So, I will also let you know as to how and what kind of knowledge you can apply. So, again, I am repeating it, before you get into a case study, do not have any prejudgment, do not have any preconceived notion. That is very, very important. Try to look into the case and try to answer the case. Okay, now let us try to answer these directives one by one. So, come to the question. So, before I get into the directives, a small announcement from StudyIQ. StudyIQ has launched its August batches in all the 3 languages, that is the prelims to interview batch, which is the umbrella program of StudyIQ. It has launched the batches in all the 3 languages, English, and also in the Hindi languages. And this time all the batches for the month of August will be morning batches. The batches will be online and it is a morning batch which will start at 8 AM. In fact, it has most of the features required that would be needed by a person, by an aspirant preparing for civil service. So, if you are willing to join these particular courses and to get an additional discount on these courses, you may have to use my code Babu Live, and the last day to join the courses is 11th of August. All right. So, with this information, let us just proceed further. Let us try to move. Now, whether it is asked in a case study or it is not asked in a case study, so these things will help you to solve a case study better. So, you will have to work on certain information. So, for example, once you go through a case study, what is a case study? A case study is a collection of facts, it is a course of action, and in that collection of facts and course of action, there can be number of stakeholders who may be involved in that. And the case study might put you in one or more ethical issues and ethical dilemmas, and then it requires you to make a decision on that particular issue. So, that means whenever you read a case study, these are the essentials that you have to identify. Who are the stakeholders involved in that, and what is the subject matter? So, subject matter is something that the entire issue is related to a particular matter. So, what is the subject matter? What are the ethical issues? What are the ethical dilemmas that I have to go through? And who are the stakeholders in this particular case study? So, once you identify all those things, then you can go to the directives. So, only after you analyze these things, you can go to the directives, what is asked in the question, and then you can start answering to the question. All right. So, now let us try to understand, as this is the approach that you will have to generally follow to most of the case studies. I am not saying that this is the same thing that you have to do in all the case studies, but in most of the things, you do not even have to write these things in the answer unless and until it is explicitly asked. But yes, you may have to identify those things to write your answers effectively. So, we will try to identify the stakeholders. What is the subject matter this entire case study is related to? What are the ethical issues? That means there is a course of action in front of you, but you feel that the action is either violating the law in our country, or it is against the moral values of the society, or against your moral values. Then you see that it is an ethical issue. So, try to identify as to what are the ethical issues, and then we will also go to the directives. So, what are the various directives in the question, and we will try to answer those directives. Come to the stakeholders. So, these are the stakeholders that we can identify in this case study. So, definitely Ramesh and his family. So, Ramesh is there, his mother is there, his children are there. Mother is a cancer patient, children are undergoing education, adolescent age. So, that is very important that their education is to be secured by Ramesh. And if Ramesh is to do something, and if he has to uphold his professional duties, there can be some personal cost that he may have to face. So, definitely Ramesh is an important, and his family members are also an important stakeholders. Illegal migrants. So, any action that may be done by the state based on the report that is submitted by Ramesh. So, that is going to definitely affect the illegal migrants. And here you never know that the illegal migrants are coming into India because of the fact that they are undergoing a persecution they are persecuted in their respective state. You never know. Say for example, take the example of Rohingyas. The Rohingyas, the Muslims in the state of Myanmar, they are persecuted. They have nowhere else to go. So you never know that we have to be sometimes empathetic towards these illegal migrants also. But all these informations are not given. But definitely they are a stakeholder in this. Then security personnel who is supposed to stop all those things. The state believes in those things, in these personnel, but they are not performing their duty and they are not dedicated to their duty. They are not upholding the values of honesty and integrity. So this security personnel definitely there. Public at large, illegal migration is a national concern. Illegal migration is a national security issue and hence it affects the public at large. So because of illegal infiltration, there can be social, cultural and economic problems at the local level also. So yes, it is going to affect the public. The Home Ministry officials, are the one who has to take care of all those things, not just the security personnel. So hence they have to collect the intelligence, they have to coordinate. So definitely they are also involved. The government of India and the government of state, yes, I said that it is a national security concern. And who is supposed to protect the national security of India? It is the responsibility of government of India. So of course, the government of India is a stakeholder, and of course the state also, the respective home department, because of the illegal migration, please understand, there can also be law and order issues in a particular state. Now take the example of Assam and take the example of some of the other bordering states. You will understand that how it may also have led to the law and order issues in our history. So of course law and order is an item in the state list, so it is also going to affect the states. And then the law enforcement agencies, be it the center or the state, so they also have equal responsibility in protecting all those things. So these are the possible stakeholders I was able to identify. So I also suggest all these students who are looking at that, the first thing that you will have to understand is try to identify as much as possible stakeholders in a case. Okay, once that is done, then we can go to the subject matter. Now subject matter means around which the entire case is resolved, is revolved around. Okay, so that is basically what is called as the subject matter. Now the first thing that I can say is that the entire subject matter is revolving around the issue of national security, the issue of internal security in our country. Illegal migration can create a lot of internal security issues and the other security issues. You never know who is infiltrating into India, whether they are terrorists, whether they are sleeper cells. So it's a serious internal security concern, not just because of the terrorist activities, but they can also cause problem to the local people. So it's a national security concern, and it is also related to what is called as probity in governance. So why I would say it is probity in governance? It is also specifically mentioned in your syllabus. So probity in governance means that anybody who is appointed to the government office or elected to the government office, they are supposed to exhibit the highest levels of behavior that command respect from the people. So as a government servant, in this case, if you take the additional secretary or if you see the other security personnel, so they are not exercising, I would say, that the highest levels of behavior or highest standards of behavior. They are not following the objectivity and the honesty that they are supposed to, based on which they are supposed to perform their duties. So of course, it is also related to probity in governance, and this issue is also related to civil service values. Now if you look into the civil service values as per your syllabus, it talks about with what integrity and objectivity one has to carry out the service. One has to be dedicated to their service. So here you can see that the security personnel are not having dedication towards their service. And apart from that, it also talks about being compassionate and empathetic towards the weaker sections. So as a civil servant, in this case, if you take Ramesh himself, so should he be compassionate towards the illegal migrants? Probably the illegal migrants are entering into India because of the fact that they are persecuted. Their lives may be taken away if they stay there. So all these things are the subject matter, I think, which Ramesh has to think about, and it is involved in this particular case. So we'll just move forward. Let us try to understand what are the ethical issues. So ethical issues means, as I already said, any course of action which you feel that it is violative of the law in India or it is violative of the moral standards the society follows. So all these things are considered to be an ethical issue. So what are the ethical issues that you can come across? So definitely it is a national security concern. It is an ethical issue. National security concern, because it can create law and order issues, it can create other social and economic issues in that particular area. It is also violative of number of laws in our country. I would say it is violative of the Passport Act. So you can also put all those things. So this gives the examiner the understanding, the kind of general awareness that you have about the society. So it is violative of the Passport Act. So such illegal migration is also violative of the Foreigners Act 1946. So you can also mention all those things in your answer. So Passport Act and the Foreigners Act. So couple of laws at least you can put in that they are violation of those things. And then there is a connivance between the security personnel and the infiltrators, which is a serious concern. When you say that there is a connivance between the security personnel and the infiltrators, that means there is some kind of organized crime that is happening. You can see that there is an organized crime. It is not only a matter of infiltration, it is also something that is organized between the security personnel and them. And also you can understand that the security personnel are not carrying out their duty as they are supposed to carry out their duties according to the civil service values. And then further you can say that there is lack of objectivity and integrity. Take the example in this particular case, the Home Secretary. So who is returning the file and who is asking Ramesh to withdraw the file, is he performing his duty with integrity? Is he performing his duty with objectivity? Is he maintaining the highest standards of behavior that he is supposed to do? That is not happening here. So that is again an ethical issue in this particular case. And then there is a clash of interest. Even for Ramesh, there is a clash of interest. So as far as the case is concerned, Ramesh seems to be a honest officer. He is trying to perform his duty. But even for Ramesh, there is a clash of interest when he is directed by his senior official to withdraw the particular report. Is Ramesh going to withdraw the report? If he withdraws the report, personally everything will be fine. His mother's treatment and children education will continue. But if Ramesh is to persist, if Ramesh is to move forward in his line of duty, there can be lot of personal cost for Ramesh as well. So there is a clash of interest or conflict of interest between professional responsibility and the self-serving interest or the personal interest. So these are the ethical issues that we can come across. Now with this information, now we'll go to the directives. So what are the directives given in the question? What are the options available to Ramesh as the Director of Home Department of the bordering state? As a director, he has a very responsible posting. It's a senior posting as well, and he has to uphold his responsibility. So what are the options available to Ramesh as the Director of Home Department of the bordering state? So whenever they ask the options, as I already said, it can be discrete options. There is no need that there should be a flow in your answer. So different types of options. Something can be right, something can be wrong. So come here. So you should not restrict yourself to the options here. You can think you otherwise also, but I'm just trying to give the directions on which you can think. See the first option. So withdraw the confidential report. So if he withdraws the confidential report as directed by the additional secretary. So I'll also make an assessment here itself, because you just come back to the next question, you will understand that if you come to the question number C, it also asks you to critically evaluate the options. Okay, so you'll have to evaluate each and every option. So I'll make the evaluation then and there itself, so that I can skip this particular area later. So withdraw the confidential report as directed by the additional secretary. So this is one thing that Ramesh can do. So what is a critical assessment evaluation of this? If Ramesh does this particular option, so probably that everything is self-serving. So although he fails in his professional duties and responsibilities, so but personally everything is fine. His mother's treatment, his children education, everything will go smooth. But Ramesh will always be guilty of failing on his line of duty and his professional responsibilities. Further, it is not only about his professional duties, but he has also let down the people of this particular country. He would have taken a oath when he has assumed the office to uphold and to protect the values in the constitution, but however he is failing on that, and it is also a national security concern. So all these things are the ethical issues if he is not doing it, but yes, personally everything is safe for him. Second thing that Ramesh can do is convince the additional secretary, briefing him the seriousness of the matter. Probably here the option is under the assumption that the additional secretary has not understood the seriousness of this particular issue, or the higher officials as said by the additional secretary, they have not understood. So probably Ramesh is taking an extra effort to make the additional secretary understand the seriousness of this particular issue. So here he is again trying to uphold his professional duties and responsibilities. He is trying to do his duty with utmost objectivity, with utmost respect to the civil service values. But then the negative feedback, but the negative can be in this particular case, you would never know that the additional secretary wanted to listen to that. Whether the additional secretary knew that the seriousness, or without knowing it he is doing it, or you do not know what is happening at the highest level. And possibly there can be some kind of counter action by the department as well if he is persisting too much with the additional secretary. So that is definitely a risk in this particular case. Now come to option number 3, forwarding the confidential report to the secretary. So that means he is bypassing the additional secretary and he is directly sending it to the secretary in the concerned state, home secretary state, plus to the home minister, and also a copy to the chief minister and the prime minister's office. So this is also can be done by Ramesh. Ramesh feels that there is no use of talking to the home secretary, and I directly forward the report. Once it has been rejected by the home secretary, he is directly forwarding the report to the secretary of the home ministry in the state, and he is also forwarding the report, a copy of the report, to the chief minister's office and the prime minister's office, the highest office in the state and the highest office in the center, because the central government is also a stakeholder in illegal migration and infiltration, because national security falls under the central government. So in this case, the biggest drawback in case of Ramesh is that he is level jumping, he is coming out of the system. Probably it may be considered to be violation of his conduct rules. A departmental action may be taken against him, and he is also not sure to what extent this is going to work, because he doesn't know whether already the home secretary has consulted with the home secretary, the additional secretary has consulted with the home secretary or not. So probably he is taking a risk. But on the flip side, if you say he is doing everything, he is risking everything to professionally carry out his duties, and at the same time to protect the interest of the people, the national security is at stake. And come to the last option that he can do. So disclosing the report to the popular media and give wide publicity about the report, and also file a PIL in the Supreme Court. Now the Supreme Court of India has itself said that illegal migration is an act of aggression. So what probably Ramesh can do, if he is not having any belief in the system, if he is not believing in the system, that he feels that everybody coordinating with one another and nothing is going to happen with the system, he can come out of the system, and then probably he can place it in front of the media. Wide publicity will be given by the media, and he can also file a public interest litigation in the court, so that the court can take cognizance of this particular matter. But on the flip side, there can be departmental action against. It may be seen as violation of his conduct rules, and he may be removed from that particular posting, and then there is a heavy personal cost that Ramesh have to pay in this case. But however, he is doing all those things in the line of duty. So these are the multiple options that comes to my mind, how he can deal with this. But however, what could be the best course of action, or what option should Ramesh adopt and why? So this is something asking for the best course of action among all the things. So although here they are asking what is the best option, you can elaborate on that. You can even make it as a course of action. You can logically combine certain options also, because a single option may not be the best option. So if I have to answer this particular question, I'll just go back and I'll say that as a person who has to professionally carry out his duties, who has to uphold his values as a civil servant, so first he has to try the internal mechanism. So first he can try to convince his additional secretary. So the first thing is convince the additional secretary, and if the additional secretary is convinced, probably that he can take it again further up. So if this is not working out, probably he can forward the report to the secretary. So forward the report to the secretary, and maybe if he want to be even more safer, in addition to forwarding the report to the secretary, he can also forward to the chief minister's office and the prime minister's office. In addition to that, probably he can also what? He can also release it to the media. Okay, so he may not go to the court at the same time, because he'll have to wait for some time before something happens. So I would say that this could be the best course of action, or the best option in my opinion, that he try all these things. So in this way, if you analyze why it is a best course of action, so in this way he is trying to ensure that he is performing his duty to the utmost satisfaction. He is upholding his professional ethics, he is upholding the civil service values, or I would say that he is ensuring probity in governance while holding a public office. But at the same time, he is following the internal mechanisms, he is following the right process. The means is also very important when you do certain things. That is what the deontological ethics says, but you don't have to use such things. So he follows the right process, right means. First he is trying to convince internally, nothing is happening, then he is going to the higher level, nothing is happening, then he can also do it to the media. So this could be the best course of action that I would say, or the best option in my opinion. But in all these options, the flip side is, yes, he may have a personal cost, but that is something that he has to endure because he is looking to do his duty effectively and also to protect the national interest. All right. And then we also critically analyzed each and every options. Now come to the next thing. What are the ethical dilemmas being faced by Ramesh? So what kind of dilemmas that he may have to undergo in the entire process? An ethical dilemma is something he has to decide between what is right and wrong. So that is what he has to decide. So what kind of ethical dilemma? Definitely there is a clash of interest, that there is a conflict of interest. There is a self-serving interest to take care of his mother, to take care of his children and their education. But at the same time, he is also to carry out his responsibilities and duties as a honest and an officer known for integrity. So that is the conflict that he has to undergo. So whether to do this or whether to do that. If I perform my duties and responsibilities, there can be a personal cost. So he has to decide which course of action he has to do, he has to perform. And then there is also an ethical dilemma between upholding civil service values and the conduct rules. So when I say civil service values, now civil service values also talks about an officer being what? Officer being dedicated to his job, and he is upholding the values of integrity and honesty. So if he is upholding integrity and honesty and he is dedicated to his job is to protect the infiltration, but at the same time, to do that, if he is level jumping, if he is jumping from one senior and he is bypassing a senior and going to the other senior, that means it may go against his conduct rules, or if he is releasing it to the media, it may go against his conduct rules. So whether I'll uphold my civil service values or it may also violate of my conduct rules in the line of performing the duty. So that is again a conflict that may have. And then the second thing is, the third thing is, there is an issue of national and internal security versus the personal price. Because what is predominant here, apart from his duty becomes so important because of the fact that the consequences it has on the national security, the kind of law and order issues, the kind of terrorist activities or the other things that may happen. So there is a heavy price that the country may have to pay, because if Ramesh is not taking action, but if he is taking action, there may be a personal price, and that can be a very costly price depending upon the case that is presented here. And then finally, there is one more thing, that there is rule of law versus empathy and compassion. What is the rule of law is saying? The rule of law is saying that an illegal migration is not allowed. Illegal migration is violation of the Indian Passport Act. They should not illegally enter into India. It is violation of the Foreigners Act. But at the same time, what if the illegal migrants, on his report he finds out that the illegal migrants are entering because of the persecution? So does Ramesh have to show empathy towards these people? Does Ramesh has to be compassionate towards these people? Because as a civil servant, one of the values is also you should be empathetic and compassionate towards the weaker sections. So this is again an ethical dilemma that may arise out of this particular case. But however, out of this ethical dilemma, he has to act in this particular case. Now the last directive is, what policy measures would you suggest to combat the menace of the infiltration of illegal migrants from the neighboring country? So overall, what kind of policy changes can be brought in by the government? That is the question. So this is why I said that here UPSC is also trying to test as to what kind of awareness you have about the various issues that the country is facing today. This is infiltration and illegal migration is one of the major issues. So you should also be aware of such issues, and those general knowledge can also help you to write better suggestions to these issues. So first of all, we can say that there should be a zero tolerance policy. So this is zero tolerance policy is that there is no scope for error. So no infiltration means no infiltration, and in order to ensure the zero tolerance policy, you can bring in a number of things. So few things that you can suggest is rotational policy of the officers. So here you have seen the connivance between the security personnel and the infiltrators or the illegal migrants. That can be averted if you can have a rotational policy. It happens that a particular officer is posted there for a long period of time. So but don't allow that. You have a continuous rotational policy, say around every month you rotate the officers in that particular area or in that particular post, so that there is no possibility that this connivance can happen. Okay, so you can have a rotational policy. Effective intelligence collection, very, very important. So, especially to prevent the infiltration, they should have an effective intelligence collection method, and officers of impeccable integrity and honesty to be posted. So, there has to be a mechanism that you choose the officers in the first place, especially when they are posted in these sensitive postings as the border postings and all those things. So, that has to be done. There should be a mechanism that has to be identified for that. Effective implementation of the laws like the Foreigners Act and the laws like the Passport Act. So, try to implement those things effectively. Comprehensive refugee policy, that is very, very important. So, this is again a very important suggestion, because now if India is opening up for the refugees, so refugees are those people who have to flee their own country because of the fact that there is a persecution, or because of the fact that there is a genocide, or because of the fact that there are some natural calamities where their livelihood is affected, and they seek a temporary residence or temporary stay in the neighboring country. That is what is called, who is a refugee. So, refugees when they come to India, that is not illegal, because they are temporarily coming to India, but illegal migration is something that is illegal. But today if you see India and the neighboring countries, there are a number of countries that they seek refugees, Tamil refugees because of persecution, Rohingyas because of persecution. But however, India does not have a refugee policy today. India has not signed the UN Convention on Refugees. India does not have a refugee policy. India does not have a law on refugees. So, possibly that you may have to come out with a refugee policy if possible, so that we can also deal with this issue of illegal migration, because as I already said, people do not want to illegally migrate into India, but you never know what is the situation that is happening in their respective country, maybe because of persecution. So, if persecution is happening, as a responsible nation, India should also open its gates and allow the outsiders to come to India as refugees, and they may be sent back, they may be deported back later when the situations are normal. So, this may also be part of your suggestion. So, this will also give the examiner as to how holistic understanding you have on this particular topic. And then the next thing is effective coordination between the center and states, also with the neighboring countries. This is very, very important. Now, illegal migration is to be coordinated with both the center as well as the state. The center has the security personnel, while the state may have to deal with the law and order issues. So, effective coordination and also intelligence collection, and also coordination with the neighboring countries. So, all these things are very, very important, so that such issues can be effectively dealt. Okay. So, with this I will just end my case. So, every week what we will do is we will try to cover up 2 case studies. So, in this way we will try to cover up most of the case studies that has been asked in the previous year, and I am very sure that this series will be immensely beneficial to the students preparing for civil services examination, especially as to how to approach the case studies and how to deal with the case studies that is asked in the examination. Thank you very much. All the very best. God bless. And if you want the PPT of this particular presentation, you can get it from my Telegram channel, Babu 337. Thank you. God bless.